Steps for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
Brandon,
Yeah,
you want one quick question?
we can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Rashad Milligan. If you are new to the channel, this is the Road to 5K Subs. I did this live last night, probably about 6 hours ago, but none of the audio recorded. I knew I wasn't on camera, but I thought it would just be me. You still be able to hear my voice because but it didn't work. So I have 20 minutes into work. So let's see if I could do this entire show again in 20 minutes. All right, you ready? Break. Okay, here we go. So first things first, the first thing I talked about was this Harriet Tubman story. And this was very interesting to me. It was a white actress in San Diego. She sued the San Diego County Library for not allowing her to portray Black civil rights icons. This was written by Katie Hyson, the Racial Justice and Social Equity Report. I did not know that. And contributors Charlotte Radovic and Mike Damron. And Katie, I believe, came from Gainesville, Florida before she moved over to the San Diego, California area. With that being said, let's get into it. Annette Hubel wrote a one-woman show. In it, she portrays historical figures, white like herself and Black. It never occurred to me that it might even be an issue, she said. I was telling their stories, bringing them alive. Rancho Santa Fe Library asked her to perform her show for Women's History Month in 2024, she said. She gave them a list of characters to pick from. They chose Harriet Beecher Stowe, a white abolitionist, Mary McLeod Bethune, a Black educator and civil rights leader, and Harriet Tubman, who escaped freedom and led others to freedom along the Underground Railroad. A couple weeks before the show, Hubel said they asked her to swap out Bethune and Tubman for white characters. And I said, why? And they said, because it's not appropriate for you to be doing this. You're a white woman. And I said, oh, no. You don't understand. I'm honoring these women. I have so carefully researched, people said. And she said, that doesn't matter. And I said, you mean I'm only to perform women whose stories of bravery and courage should be told if they're white? And she said, that's pretty much it. So I'm not getting it. And so I said, well, tell me how this is different from the Hamilton play. In Hamilton, non-white actors portray white historical figures. And she said, this was historically different. And I said, I don't quite understand that. Explain that, please. And she said, I can't explain it. And quite frankly, I'm quite baffled that you don't understand, she recounted. All right, let me make sure everything. Okay, we're good. The debate escalated to the country's diversity and inclusion team, who affirmed the decision. Hubel would have to swap out the characters. And my first thought was, why wasn't I invited to this meeting if it's inclusion? Hubel said. She refused to change the characters. If they came to me and said, somebody in our library really likes Corey Ten Boom and Gladys Aylward, white characters, would you change out those two characters for them? And I would have said, sure. But because they said it was because I was white and they were Black, I said, this has nothing to do with it. No, I won't. The library canceled her performance. The county declined to comment on pending litigation. In an email, county spokesperson Donna Dirktail said, the San Diego County Library remains steadfast in its mission to promote an inclusive and welcoming environment for all that promotes learning, civic engagement, and community connection. Hubel doesn't use makeup for her characters, just costume changes, aka I won't use blackface. I think if people thought I was doing blackface or a parody of these people, not respecting them, then it might be some cause for objection. But all they have to do is read my stories and my testimonies on my website to see how deeply I respect and honor and admire these people, she said. Hubel posted on Facebook about the library canceling her show. The San Diego Union Tribune published an opinion piece by former San Diego City Attorney Jan Goldsmith supporting her. The lawyer from the Pacific Legal Foundation read it. They called me and said, this is horrific. Hubel said, we need to do something about this. Hubel said the lawyer convinced her to sue. If these women that I portray are against such injustice and such egregious outdoings in their lives, who am I to stop fighting at this? Hubel said. So she's comparing herself, just so we wind this back, an abolitionist, someone who helped end slavery, someone who's extremely against slavery, and she's comparing what she's doing to Harriet Tubman, who led hundreds of slaves to freedom and led herself to freedom as a Black woman. During the night, she outsmarted slave masters throughout the entire South. She's comparing what she's doing as just being an older white lady playing these folks on the stage in a one-woman play at the local San Diego County Library to that. Just so we're caught up, all right? We're caught up. Pacific Legal Foundation's website said it fights for individual liberties. It's filled with suits, implicit bias training, race quotas for licensing boards, programs meant to close racial opportunity gaps, and more. Hubel's lawyer, Chris Barnwald, said they aim to set the legal precedent. We do this because we're interested in the impact, he said. We want to send a clear message that the government has a duty to every individual to treat them equally and treat them fairly. If the San Diego County government can make decisions based on race, for instance, then in any county and local government could do the same. And we want to make sure that stops here. So-called reverse discrimination, what does not exist. Suits stretch back to at least the 1970s. By the way, check out the hoodie. I love LA. If you know, you know. Recently, high-profile cases have made headlines again, like the Supreme Court ruling against considering race in college admissions. They are being filed across the country, with a slew in California and locally in San Diego. After a white plaintiff sued, the city of San Diego removed the race requirement from a program meant to help people of color buy their first home. These lawsuits rely on laws enacted after slavery and the civil rights movement that were meant to address discrimination, particularly against formerly enslaved African Americans, said Dan Eaton, a legal analyst. But the reasons a law was written don't really matter in the court of law, only what the words say. What we're seeing as the law has evolved is the application of these laws or constitutional amendments, as the case may be, to the claims by the member of the majority. It's been really interesting to see that it's all turned on its head, said Angie Chandler, who's advised arts and institutions across the county, including San Diego. She advocates in part for more stage time for Black playwrights and actors. Chandler has also played Harriet Tubman. Even as a Black woman, it's been one of the more difficult roles I've ever had to play, she said. And this is Angie Chandler playing Harriet Tubman at the Levine Museum of the New South. She loved to play Mary McLeod Bethune, whose body, she said, was central to her experience. A woman over 200 pounds, dark-skinned Black woman living in the 1800s and 1900s in this country. There's not a way that I can even invite you into what it's like to walk around this country in a similar body in 2020 and in 2025. Physically objectified, stared at. Hubel's performance is not the same as the colorblind casting in Hamilton, she said. It's not a two-way street because colorblindness is a response, she said, a response to historic exclusion, to the erasure of our stories and our parts of different chapters in this history of the country. She said any defense of Hubel's performance also ignores the harmful history of white people portraying people of color. It's not just blackface and yellowface, but the centuries-long fight for roles for non-white actors that go beyond stereotypes, which she said is still ongoing today. The creation of the American theater didn't happen in a vacuum, but in a starkly divided and racist society, she said. The foundation of the American arts movement mean that it will never be as simple and innocent and neutral for a white person to attempt to tell or perform the story of a Black person. Under the letter of the law, this may not matter. So she might win the lawsuit after all of this because of technicalities and the way that the law is written. So that was the first thing I went over. And then the second thing I went over.
That's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but.
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
We can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.